here on the program. We have a special guest with us now. He is the play-by-play voice of the Clemson Tigers, the ACC champions who won a doozy of a game a couple weeks ago over the SMU Mustangs, 10-3 today, taking on the Texas Longhorns, and he is none other than Don Munson. Don, thank you for stopping by. Good to see you. Happy holidays, and a big one today for the Tigers against the Longhorns. Pretty stoked for this one, aren't you?
It should be a fun one here in Austin. This is my first trip to Austin, so this should be a lot of fun. Hopefully the Tigers will perform well, and we can move on to Atlanta and have a game on the 1st of January in 2025.
Absolutely. Let's chat about what happened before we look at this matchup in the SMU game, because this was one Ed and I talked about a little bit on air and off air that we felt that, and I know you may not pay attention to the odds makers, but they had them initially as a quick favorite. They pulled it back, made SMU the favorite, and we thought they'd win this game. They get up at halftime. SMU comes roaring back behind. It's really good quarterback that could make some plays in Kevin Jennings. But how about the field goal to end the game by the Tigers to make that 56-yarder? Nolan Hauser actually had your play-by-play call on in the background as I watched it. The feed sometimes a little ahead, sometimes behind from the television feed. And I know you all were just I didn't think he'd have a chance to make it, and he made it. Give me just kind of your thoughts on how that game unfolded the last quarter.
Well, obviously, you're in that last 15 minutes of the game, you're up 17 going to that fourth quarter, so you feel pretty good. I think that Coach Swinney's only lost a couple of games in his career as a head coach at Clemson when he's had a lead going into the fourth quarter. But then all of a sudden you see that 17-point lead evaporate, but there is 16 seconds left. So in the back of your mind, you're thinking, maybe. But it was a kick return. It was a kick return by Adam Randall that got a very generous spot, by the way. I don't know what it is about spotting the ball in college football, but it is horrendous. But they gave Clemson a couple of extra yards. They got him out to the 45, and obviously from there, the pass to Antonio Williams, he picks up another 3 extra yards, which was big. And then, they send Hooser out there. And the thing with Nolan is that as long as he can get it past the line of scrimmage, it's going to go through the pipes. Now, he missed one earlier in that game, which was the first one that he'd gotten past the line of scrimmage. And when I say that, for people that don't know, he's had, 5 kicks blocked this year, maybe 6 blocked. But they've all been blocked because of just poor blocking on the left side of him. And so guys have been coming in from that side. But once he hit it and it got there, I mean, you could tell he had the leg. It was just, was it going to go between the uprights? And it almost went dead center between the uprights, and the celebration was on. And, you don't get to call many like that. And that was certainly a blast to call. The first walk-off field goal that has happened, and the longest walk-off field goal in college football playoff history.
It's amazing. I'll let my partner here, Coach Young, who's a former basketball coach, jump in here in a moment. I want to talk about Dabo Swinney and what he's done there and just the whole dynamics. But I want to get this thought from you before we dive into the matchup here too, Don. This game with Texas, who's the biggest, I think, favorite on the board in these college football first-round games, do you get the sense that Clemson's got this us against the world mentality going in this matchup in Austin against this Longhorns team that's viewed as one of the favorites to possibly win this thing? Do they kind of have that us against the world that nobody expected them to even get to the ACC Championship until Miami lost its game at the end of the regular season? What's kind of the view and the vibe of the team?
Well, I don't think there's any doubt that they're carrying a chip on their shoulder coming in, because no one's picking them. I mean, no one. They're now a 13-point underdog, I think, is what I saw the number go to overnight. It was at 12 and a half, something along those lines, and now I think I saw where it crept up to 13 at some books. So yeah, there's no pressure on Clemson. There's zero pressure on Clemson. All the pressure is on Texas in this game. So you can go out there and play free, and hopefully that's what Clemson will be able to do.
We're talking with Don Munson. He's the play-by-play voice of the Clemson Tigers. Our guest here on CoVA Sports TV and 757 Saturday Sports Talk, as the Tigers are in action today in the college football playoff. Notre Dame a winner last night, which makes Coach Young happy as they prevailed against Indiana. We've also got Texas hosting Clemson, Ohio State hosting Tennessee, and SMU visiting Penn State. Go ahead, Ed.
Don, thanks for coming on, and good to meet you through this viral situation we're in.
Sure.
You hit it on the head. In fact, FanDuel's has it now 13.5 point spread. So it's all the money is going to Texas. Probably more ways than one. When you look at this game, you know Clemson very well, and I know you've probably done your homework on Texas. We just talked about the Tennessee-Ohio State game. That frontline battle is going to be epic. Not good, epic, because of what both present. Where is the key? Is it line play? Is it skill player play? Is it cornerback against receiver? Is it specialty? Where would you put the emphasis on tonight's game, especially if Clemson has a shot at winning this?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, these games are decided in the trenches. I mean, that's you go back and you look at the great teams that Clemson had that were playing for national championships, both offensive line and defensive line. They were stout and they knew how to control the line of scrimmage. So yeah, that becomes big. Clemson needs to do a good job defensively of not letting Texas, because Texas wants to run the football, I believe, here today. Don't let them get to the edge. You know, that if they can get to the edge and use their speed, that's going to cause problems for Clemson. So how did they go about trying to shut that down? The other thing I think is just simple field position, and then don't turn the football over. Texas is going to turn the ball over, and that's what they have done all season long. Clemson's been pretty good at not turning the ball over and taking advantage of that. Matter of fact, Clemson has scored 93 points off of turnovers. They've only given up 17 points off of turnovers. So to me, that becomes a big factor. Almost kind of like the SMU situation. You know, if Clemson could come out, create a couple of turnovers, turn those turnovers into 7, not have to settle for just 3, but turn those turnovers into 7 points, hopefully get some short fields, go that route, put pressure on, because all of a sudden that may get the fan base that'll be here, a little turned against them, or, of sitting back and not being such a factor as they can be when you have 100,000 in a stadium. And so those are the things that I think need to go right for Clemson here. But I think that Clemson can do this. This is going to be the best offense that Texas has faced the entire season. The numbers show that. The highest offensive team that they have had to face was Georgia, and Georgia's 43rd in the country. And what happened to them? They lost not once, but twice to the Georgia Bulldogs. So, and some people are saying this may be the best defense that Clemson has faced. I don't know about that. Now, Texas hasn't given up more than 350 total yards to anybody this season. So that'll be certainly a big chore. Clemson offensively, everybody talks about run. They are really good at throwing the football. Go take care of that aspect of it. Maybe use some more of the short game stuff in the passing game, and then let Cade do his thing. But Cade's going to get punished in this game. They're going to come after Cade. They're going to try to hit him and make sure that the defense, that he knows that defense is around. So this will be a tough game for Klubnik as he comes home to Austin.
For sure. Yeah, Don, and I also look at this, and you said it earlier, all the pressure's on Texas,
right?
Because of a lot of things. And I don't know Dabo Swinney, but I got to believe in his mindset. Yeah, he'll tell his players, hey, man, we just play loose. Let's have the fun. But we're trying to win a national championship, which they have done. So it's no rodeo first for them. They know that. So they're going to have their own interior pressure where we got to win and move on. I look at that in the situation and knowing Dabo in the past has done some things where surprised Texas a little bit. Not so much with a lot of gimmicky plays, but I kind of think there's going to be one or two things they throw at Texas that maybe Texas has not really seen or would expect that from Clemson to get an edge. Do you have any kind of feeling towards that? Based, again, you've seen them all year long that can come up?
Well, I think that if that happens, it's going to happen probably in the run game, because Clemson's going to have to do something. Maffa certainly is still not healthy. I mean, he's nowhere close to being 100%. He's probably about 80, 85% coming into this game. So what do you do creative running the football? And I think that they probably will put some wrinkles in that they have not shown. You got with Jay Haynes going out because of the ACL injury that he suffered in the ACC Championship game. Now you're having to rely on your third, fourth string running back, which is never a good situation. So they're going to have to do something creative in the run game, whether that is with Cade or that's with a wide receiver or whatever, bringing somebody in jet motion. But they're going to have to do something along those lines and run the football at least a little bit. But I still think, they will go to that passing game, and they've got their wide receivers. If I'm Texas, particularly now with the guys that they have. So this is a young wide receiving core for Clemson, right? They're led by, a couple of freshmen, redshirt sophomore. So if I'm Texas, with the experience and physicality they have in the defensive backfield, I come up and I physically challenge Clemson's wide receivers and see how they respond to that. If Clemson's wide receivers can respond to that and get into some open areas and And the other thing is that people need to understand that windows in these games, passing windows, they go from like this, they go to this in these kind of games. So Klubnik's got to be very, very accurate in this game as you try to slip things in there.
Our last couple minutes with you. We thank you for coming on. Don Munson, the play-by-play voice of the Clemson Tigers, our guest here on 757 Saturday Sports Talk, getting ready for the ACC Champion Tigers taking on the Texas Longhorns, who are 11-2 on the season. Klubnik with 33 touchdown passes against that secondary that's given up just 4 touchdown passes on the year. I want to get – this is the last one for me, Don. I'll let Ed finish up with you. Just your view of, and I feel like Dabo Swinney gets unfairly criticized. The narrative nationally is not right. Well, because, and they get some players from Virginia, as you know, recruiting wise, but this whole thing with, and I'm sure Ed will piggyback on this with you, just not using the portal, but people don't understand just how many good quality football players they have. I know the SEC gets the lion's share of the attention. The Alabamas, the Georgias, and the team they play today in Texas, who went from the Big 12 to the SEC. But what's your view on how this team has changed in the last year or two? Because they didn't play at this elite level the last couple of years. They've been there before, won a championship. It feels like in a weird, strange way, they've kind of made some steps in the last year to year and a half to get back there. What's your view of the roster and kind of the whole breakdown of things with it?
Well, I think the pieces of the puzzle are better. I mean, the offensive line, you go back and you look at the last couple of years, the offensive line is not what it is this year. Certainly the change to Matt Luke and bringing in Coach Luke has made a significant difference to this football team as he's coached up the OL. But the offensive line is much better. So today, again, they're injured up there. They only got about 6 or 7 guys that you would say really should be able to step on the field and play against a team the quality of Texas. And then I think the other thing is that the wide receiver core, the addition of the 2 freshman wide receivers has been just, has been absolute. They had to have that kind of talent to step in there. So Wesco and Moore have brought in a at that position some talent that had not been there. It's not quite like it was in the days of old when Deshaun was back there throwing the football, and certainly when Trevor Lawrence was back there zipping the ball around. But the biggest difference, and still I think that's still kind of missing on this ball club right now, is there's not a Travis Etienne. There's just not that running back that is back there in the running back. I have said this on many shows, and I'll say it here again. I think that Travis Etienne is the best player to have ever played in the Atlantic Coast Conference. If you just go look at the numbers, the numbers will back that up. And I think that he was that kind of had he be at Wisconsin, you got to remember he only carried the ball 20 or more times at Clemson, 4 times in his entire career. If he had been at Wisconsin and given the ball 30 or 35 times, he may have rushed for 8,000 yards. I mean, it's just incredible what this kid possibly could have. He averaged better than 7 yards a carry at Clemson, set the touchdown record in the ACC, all of that kind of stuff, and was just an absolute stud. So, people forget. They always look at the quarterback. But the pieces of the puzzle, man, they better be good around that quarterback, or else that quarterback will just kind of be taken to an ordinary status. That quarterback can only do so much. He has to have the other pieces around him.
That's an excellent point, Don, right there you made, Ed, because all you hear about is Trevor Lawrence, Deshaun Watson. You forget about sometimes even the Sammy Watkinses and DeAndre Hopkins to go with ETN that were part of the success in making these runs to championships in the ACC and playing national title games. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, no, Don, I like his point on ETM. He was a heck of a running back. He just did so many things and wasn't your flair guy or top name, but he was production, which is, as coaches, that's what we pray for every night. Don, let's look ahead a little bit here. Clemson wins, which everybody said they won't, but let's say they win. They get Arizona State next. To me, that's a better matchup for them than Texas. But if they get through that. Then, we can worry about later on probably playing either Oregon, Ohio State, or outside chance of Tennessee, though I think it would be Oregon. 2 scenarios. They beat Arizona State. What quickly what do you think about with Arizona State? But let's go the wrong way. They lose. We already talked about earlier in the show, Ohio State, people are already on day about losing to Michigan. Even if they win the doggone national title, they'll still be on them. People in Penn State grumble a little bit about Franklin. You can't win big ones. So if he loses tonight, oh my God, here we go again. Indiana people aren't mad because they can't believe where they finished. They're having a party tomorrow. Notre Dame is moving on, and people want to still see what happens to the Clemson fan base. They don't win tonight.
Well, I think they're upset. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think they're upset, but they're upset because of the streak that Coach Swinney has had them on, basically since 2015. And there's I don't hold that against them. That's why they're called fans. Fans is just short for fanatics. And so that's exactly why they're called fans. But I think that also I think there's that belief that in the fan base that there's a turn in the right direction. And I think we also need to be honest about, we don't know that this is going to be a 12-team playoff next year. They're already talking about expanding it to possibly 14. What's going to happen 5 years down the road? By that time, some are expecting it to be a 16-team playoff, possibly even like the FCS does it with a 24-team playoff. That's where we're headed. I mean, let's be really honest about this. Last year there were only 3 playoff games. All right, when there were 4 teams, there was only 3. Now we get 11. We've increased that by 8 in 1 year. Why is that? Money, generating money, and so that's what this is about. We're headed to a scenario where probably 48 to 64 teams are going to split off from the current situation that we're having. They're going to form their own governance body. They're going to hold their own championships in every sport, not just in football, but in every sport. And if you don't think that's where we're headed, you're just being blind to what's coming in front of you. That light at the end of the tunnel, it is an oncoming train. And it's a train that's bringing change all across college athletics.
Yeah, it really
Don,
is.
you said it perfect. I've said it. SEC and Big Ten have already set notice to everybody. Each are going to get 5 more teams. That'll be 50. And they're going to say to the NCAA, thank you. We got all the TV contracts. We got all the powerhouse teams, because nobody outside the 50 is ever going to win a national title. And it's going to happen. It's not if, it's a matter of when. I agree with you. That people say, oh, that's too much to happen. It's going to happen.
I don't know how much you study, and I do this just because, I like to look at the numbers, but go and look at what Amazon is doing with Thursday Night Football. And I realize it's the NFL. All right, I get that. The NFL is its own beast. But if you go and just look at the numbers, if I were to ask you right now, what do you think that the average viewership for Thursday Night Football on Amazon is? Do you have any idea? What would you guess is the average viewership for Thursday Night Football?
I'm going to say a couple million at least. At least.
You got to guess?
Might
a couple million.
I might think it's a little more than that when you count in all the streaming elements.
1.6 million.
There you go. Yeah.
0.6.
That's
all right. That outdraws anything that college football currently has on a national broadcast, on an over-the-air channel. So that's the other part of this. That's also is where we're headed. If you don't think that's where the NFL's headed, and believe me, that's probably where college athletics is. We are in such a different mindset. I mean, we're sitting here doing this like this, virtually, and this is the way that most under 30-year-olds watch their sports
100%.
Is on some kind of device. They don't watch it on a television anymore. They watch it on a phone or on an iPad or something like that. They carry it around. I've got a buddy of mine who has 3 kids in the household. He has DirecTV in his house, and none of them watch the television. They all download the app and watch it through the app on the phone in their bedrooms and stuff. I mean, it's crazy, but that's just where we are. The technology that we hold in our hands is such a great, and that technology in 5 years from now is going to be, who knows what it's going to be. Just who knows what's going to happen with that technology. But I think you better be looking. You got to think outside the box. You have to think outside the box in these situations. That's what I give so much credit to the SEC when they first started all this. Man, they thought outside the box. And the problem with me and that I have had with the ACC is that they've had inside the box thinking, and it's cost them. And I think it's cost the Big 12. It certainly cost the Pac-12. But, the SEC and the Big 10, they had people that were in leadership there that kind of thought outside the box, and they got things moving the right way early.
Well, some awesome perspective and insight from the one and only Don Munson, play-by-play voice of the Clemson Tigers. Hear him tonight on the Clemson Tiger Radio Network alongside Tim Burray, Reggie Merriweather as the Tigers take on the Texas Longhorns at DKR Texas Memorial Stadium in Austin. Thank you so much, my friend. Good to have you on the program. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year, and we'll talk to you in 2025.
All right, Merry Christmas to you all as well. God bless. Go Tigers.
There you go. Don Munson, our guest. Thanks for stopping by. We'll come back with more, including the NFL picks for the show. Also, a couple of interview clips as well as we close out this edition before Christmas of 757 Saturday Sports Talk.